Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House, directed by H.C. Potter, highlights the risks and challenges of home ownership. The film focuses on the escalating absurdity of Mr. Blandings' attempts to build his first home. The comedy is relatable and grounded in everyday frustrations. Cary Grant and Myrna Loy deliver charming and nuanced performances, with Grant's comedic timing being particularly notable. The film offers a timeless commentary on the American dream and the suburban life.
Mrs. Blandings' little flower sink.
Oh, Mrs. Blandings' little flower sink.
You didn't authorize any changes, did you?
Well, they certainly weren't changes.
What have you done?
I haven't done anything. All I did was just nothing at all.
What have you done?
Well, all I did was one day I saw 4 pieces of flagstone left over from the porch that were just going to be thrown away because nobody wanted them. And I asked Mr. Wretch if he wouldn't just put them down on the floor of the flower room and poke a little cement between the cracks and give me a nice stone floor where it might be wet with flowers and things. That's absolutely all I did.
That's all you did?
Absolutely. Just 4 little pieces of flagstone.
Did you, by any chance, authorize a drain?
Of course I didn't. All I said was that I wanted a nice, dry, stone floor, and Mr. Wretch was just as nice as he could be and said, well, you're the doctor, and that was all that anybody said to anybody about anything.
The Paleface features Bob Hope as a cowardly correspondence school dentist who is trying to establish a practice in the Wild West. The film offers a fun and lighthearted take on the Western genre in Hope's signature style. Sitting Pretty introduced the character of Mr. Belvedere, a brilliant and eccentric babysitter played by Clifton Webb. The comedy is character-driven, with much of the humor coming from Mr. Belvedere's dry wit and superior attitude. The suburban family that employs the eccentric babysitter are often overwhelmed by his unconventional methods. Webb's portrayal of Mr. Belvedere is iconic. The film was popular enough to spawn 2 sequels, Mr. Belvedere Goes to College, 1949, and Mr. Belvedere Rings the Bell, 1951. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, a blend of horror and comedy, teams up an iconic comedy duo with 4 iconic monsters. The story involves the pair as baggage clerks who encounter Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, and the Wolf Man. The film has nothing satirical or screwball. It's not the Philadelphia Story or Sullivan's Travels. It's just funny. It stands out for its unique and perfect genre mashup. It did much to popularize the horror comedy genre. The film has a lasting legacy that few films have. 2 of the funniest and most popular films of the late 1940s involve ordinary, everyday people having to confront the reality of larger-than-life supernatural characters. In Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Chick Young and Wilbur Gray are baggage clerks tasked with delivering crates to a horror wax museum, McDougal's House of Horrors. Chick and Wilbur are unaware that the alleged wax figures in the crates are actual monsters. The baggage clerks start out believing that stories about Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and the Wolf Man are the bunk. But it becomes obvious after a while that the monsters are a real threat, and the duo must find a way to combat them for their survival. Nothing as scary as Dracula appears in Miracle on 34th Street, but believing in a mythic figure is still something vital to the protagonist's well-being. Doris Walker, Maureen O'Hara, an event director at Macy's department store, hires a personable old man named Kris Kringle to play Santa Claus at the store's toy department. Doris is appalled when Kris later claims to be the actual Santa Claus.
What an odd hallucination. But the human mind is often inflamed with strange complexes.
Doris's neighbor, Fred Gailey, John Payne, takes a liking to Kris and lets him stay with him to be closer to work. As the story progresses, Doris and Fred must set aside their cynicism and have faith in Santa Claus to find lasting happiness together. Wilbur comes to believe in the monsters early in the film and struggles for much of the story to convince his more cynical partner of their existence. The same situation develops in The Miracle on 34th Street. Fred comes to trust and respect Chris, though he's not entirely sure that Chris is Santa, and repeatedly implores Doris to believe in Chris even if common sense says otherwise. I recently watched Mr. Blandings builds his dream house. It is a perfect film. I hadn't seen it in a while, and I couldn't have enjoyed it more. Cary Grant is amazing. But I have to pick the much-beloved Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein as the best comedy of 1948.